Hello, this is the Answer Lady. Today I'm testing a Passap by going through all of the stitch functions. I thought you might like to see how we do this.
I thought you might like to watch me test a Passap. This is what we do when buying one or when recently having worked on one. I go through all the motions. I have this set up on stitch size 4/4 with thin yarn, and we're going to start with in and knit a few rows. Normally I knit a minimum of 20, but there's no need to do that while you're watching. Now I change to CX, CX, X, X. Of course, we've been using orange, or in this case, white strippers. They're the same as orange. But CX is actually single bed work. So we use our black strippers. The first row of CX after doing double bed knitting is hard. And we make it easier by racking so that the needles oppose perfectly. That keeps a hitch from forming at one edge. I'm all set CX on both locks. And let's give it a try. There we go. We should be knitting circular. And if you can see down between the beds, a tube is forming. I could get my finger down in there. Now, my next thing is I'm going to go right through the dial. I've got pushers in the one up, one down position here. CX and N have been ignoring it. On the other bed, I'm going to put them in the same one up, one down position, but opposing so that they'll alternate from bed to bed. And we'll test AX and BX like that. My left one is up here, so I've got these wrong. My left one should be down on the other bed. I know you can't see everything I'm doing, so I'm going to describe it, because I have this set up so you can see most things. In order to shift to an X feature, we have to first go back to N, then go to A, and then back to X. I also need to rack so that the needles alternate. And on the Passap, there's the needle rule, which means the left needle should be on the front bed and the right needle should be on the back bed. It normally makes the neatest edges. So let's test AX. But we don't need these strippers for that because we're going back to double bed work. Testing both at once. This machine came with a pair of orange strippers, which were badly nicked, but we cleaned them up, so I thought maybe I'll test those with my AX. I'm also going to engage one arrow key on each bed so that the pushers alternate rows. They'll change positions. And you can see what's going on in here. This needle tucked, the one next to it knitted. And on the other bed, the same thing happened. This needle tucked, the other knitted. Next row, if you can mark with your eyes one of these needles, you'll see it swap positions. So we get an all-over tuck fabric. Aha! I knew something was hanging up. I don't have a pusher up under this needle. Consequently, it's never knitting at all. Let's fix that and do a few more rows. I knew I was getting something hung up. Let's try again. And now it's knitting off properly. There'll be a pucker on this side of the fabric, but I won't worry about it because I'll know that it was caused by operator error. let's shift to BX. Go back to N, go to B, then go to X. Same on the other bed. Now in BX, as a matter of fact, I think I should do a few rows of N between. That's enough. Now back to BX. The reason is, in BX, only the selected needles, those with pushers up underneath them, actually knit. The others slip. So I didn't want them to slip when there was already a tuck stitch on there. Okay, we're all set. And we should be able to trace the yarn path. It's a little hard. This needle knitted, this needle slipped. There is no new stitch last row. The next new stitch is over here. This needle knitted, the opposite one knitted, this one slipped. Slip just means that the yarn passes by the needle and doesn't do anything. It doesn't hook in it. It just ignores that needle. So we should have BX, BX, slip stitch on both beds. So that lets us know that it's working correctly. We've already tested CX, CX, but I'm going to do it again with these orange strippers in. That is really not how you want to do CX, CX, because it is single bed work, since the beds are knitting alternately. But it's a great test to see what kind of condition the machine is in. That was a mistake. I only had one bed in CX. The other one was still on N. A little trick that I'm using. I have my left hand pulling down on the knitting. When I let up, you can see it pulling down, up, which helps the stitches knit off, even though I'm not using the black pushers that give more downward push. Now let's go to DX. DX. In DX, both beds do respond to the pushers, but somewhat differently. Do you see what's happening? Alternate stitches are tucking. This one now has 2 loops on it. This one knitted off 2 loops. And that's happening on both beds. But they are rotating one bed, other bed, as they do in CX. And we can be proud of this machine because it successfully did that with old, repaired orange strippers. So that is a strong sign it's in good shape. Because we're knitting only one bed at a time, black strippers would be our first choice. Beautiful. EX, EX. We do not have to concern ourselves with pushers because they're not used in EX. It's full fisherman's rib, and I should not be using my black strippers, orange strippers, or if I had grabbed the white ones that go with this machine, that would be fine. The black strippers technically can be used for anything, but they can make it so difficult. EX, EX makes full fisherman's rib. Let me get a tool again. All of these stitches knitted. Perhaps you can see. None of these stitches knitted. They all tucked this row, but they aren't going to fall apart because the yarn zigzagged back and forth between the beds, and it got these. And actually, I should be racked, and I'm not. This machine was very nice to me and didn't make a fuss because it is so well oiled, but really these needles should be alternating. Let's do a little bit more EXEX. You do EXEX and make full fisherman's rib where you want the fabric to get very wide, because tucking alternately like that will allow it to expand enormously. Let's check out FX. Oh, it's not doing anything FXy because I didn't put it off of N and onto X. There we go. Now we're responding to the pushers again. Let's see. This last row, all these knitted, half of these responded to the pushers and tucked. Next row it'll be different. These knitted, these tucked, these knitted, these tucked, alternate stitches tucked, because they're responding to the pushers. Let's check out GX. And you know what should happen on GX? Nothing. We should go back and forth. Nope, nothing happened at all. That's exactly as it should be. And finally, HX. This is another one where technically I should be racked to a pose because there wouldn't be a hitch at the edge. We're only really knitting on one bed at a time, so although I did a few rows successfully with orange strippers, it would be nice to try it with black, which is what you're really meant to use. And I'm sure you can guess what this is. We're responding to the pushers again, and I've got them set to alternate. But you can see a strand of yarn here that didn't knit. It slipped. The needles on either side of it did knit. The next one slipped. And it's doing this on both beds. So this is a combination of CX and slip stitch. Let's do a few more. When in doubt, put in between the two tests, and let's make sure we're racked so the needles alternate, because they're all going to knit on in. Beautiful. And at this point, I have, let me stop the carriage so you can see. The left arrow key is depressed. And I've got that same setup on the other bed. But we would cancel it out, now use the right one, and go through the entire sequence again, because the right arrow key could malfunction while the left arrow key was working. And you would assume everything was fine, but we can't send it home without knowing. Actually, I already did check, and this one is A-OK. Here is our swatch. See how well it did everything. You'll see one or two mistakes, like bumps here and there, which were the operator error issues you saw me address.